Now, this was posted to me, and I found it at the same time hilarious, but I also found it sad because it shows people are unwilling to learn anything from their negative experiences. A user posted this to me on Twitter saying, when you got that icky porn ban because Jesus always wanted you to, but then your bank account gets closed because you advocated for less immigrants online, which means you're clearly ultra Hitler. And then you go, wait, that wasn't supposed to happen. Only the bad thing I don't like should have been targeted. And so the reason I find it funny is because I have seen right-wingers that I know personally who had their accounts banned from social media back in 2020. And now that they're finally back, they're advocating for the same people that banned them to have more power and more influence over the internet. And I just don't see how that's a good thing. But look, I'm not unreasonable, okay? Like, I'm not an extremist. I understand both sides of the argument. I really do. I understand that there is a fine line that people need to walk between tyranny and anarchy. Just because I don't think that Visa and MasterCard should have a say in what video games should be banned, that also doesn't mean that when I go on Steam, I want to be flooded by dick pics. Just because I think it's okay for adult websites to exist, that doesn't mean that when my kid is 6 years old that I want him to be able to be flooded with adult images whenever they go online. And so I get it. You know, there's a fine line which is between some reasonable measures and then going all the way into tyranny. And so in order for us to avoid that, we gotta have the principal argument. We gotta know what the principal argument is so that we stand against this type of censorship that we stood since 2016. Like, as far as I know, right-wingers have been consistently against censorship since all of this madness started, right? And like, here's an example. Back in 2021, you have the Australian government suggesting that people should show IDs whenever they want to use a social media website or a dating website. Now, the argument they used then wasn't to protect the children. The argument they used then was to prevent trolling, bullying, harassment, and sexual abuse online, right? So it was like the feminist argument because back then it was 2021. And it didn't catch on because people were against it. And people were against it because they experienced the pandemic. Like, they knew what it's like to have certain entities that are unelected, uncontrolled, which is the social media companies, dictate the type of things people are and aren't allowed to put online. And so everyone found this to be outrageous. Now, take into account that this isn't something spectacular or something Orwellian that is unimaginable. This type of thing happens in China. Like, billions of people under the Chinese Communist Party have to show ID whenever they go online. And people that I know from the internet, right-wingers at the time, said that, no, this is disturbing. Now, for some reason, the exact same system is now being re-implemented. It's being repackaged and resold again 4 years later, and the system is now about protecting the children. Right? So, like, people didn't want the system because at the time it was supposed to protect against misogyny, hate speech, abuse, and trolling. But now it's about protecting the children. And so it's fine. And it's also fine because, it's being sold as being against pornography. But most people are having an emotional reaction rather than realizing, hold on a little bit. Don't we find pornography on Twitter? Don't we find it on Discord? Don't we find it on the search engines? Isn't it like literally on everywhere on the internet? And the answer is yes. Like, if you tried to pass this law in the 90s, okay, fine. Like, the internet would have been built with this law in mind, and it would have been a lot easier to implement. But now, especially their definition of not safe for work, which is so large that even a woman that shows just a nipple is included in this category. Well, every single website on the internet is at risk. Like, you would need age verification for everything, right? So, like, you're an adult in a room without children, without anyone, it's just yourself, and you still have to show ID constantly when you're engaging with the internet. And that's what the right-wingers want. Meanwhile, over the sea, you have the United Kingdom, and you have France, and you got Australia. And the leftists over there want the same shit, right? Like, here you have a petition, make verified ID a requirement for opening a social media account. Again, in a country where Nigel Farage got debanked for being literally Hitler, according to them, they want people to show ID. Now, here's the thing, right? Like, what's so bad in showing ID, V? What's so bad? I mean, you already have an IP, right? The government already knows who you are. And the answer is yes, but it's kind of more difficult for them to know. Like, they actually need a court order. You actually need to do something, right? But if you show ID, most people will self-censor. Because now it's like, okay, it's my job. It's my reputation on the line. You know, if the government doesn't want to take a firm stance against immigration, maybe I should shut the fuck up. If the government has health policies, maybe I should shut the fuck up, right? So, like, people will self-censor. But, like, imagine this other situation. Let's say you actually do need an ID every single time you make an account. What happens if your ID gets banned? What's to prevent that from happening? Like, the social media website, can they just not say, yeah, okay, well, this is the ID of the guy we banned yesterday for hate speech. Or worse, this is the ID that Facebook has banned. Now we're going to ban it as well. You're creating a system where in order to create an account, you need to have an ID, right? Like everywhere you go. And if your ID gets flagged, like for instance in China this happened, people needed a health pass in order to take public transport. And they went to protest the banks. It was an economic issue. It wasn't even like necessarily a political one. But the government wanted to protect the banks. And so like they changed their health pass from green to red overnight. And now they couldn't take the public transport. Why are people supporting this? Like, okay, let me put it this way. Let's say you are hired to implement this legislation. Like, there are people interested in controlling the internet, and they hire you. And you're like, how do we do it? Well, the way I would do it is to understand that the internet is fragmented. Like, you have various ideological bubbles. And usually they're against each other, right? So you would have to create a narrative for all the bubbles. And then you create a narrative for the left bubble. It's about protecting people from harassment, hate speech, and bullying. And then you make one for the right-wing bubble. It's about cracking down on pornography websites. It's about eliminating degeneracy. And when both people agree, you implement the system, and then you don't give a shit about what they have to say. And this is like what I don't understand. Like, why are people supporting their own censorship? Like, I get it. You know, you don't want to see nasty shit on the internet. I'm with you. I don't want to see it. Like, at the same time, I don't want it to stop existing, right? Like, I want to find it when I'm interested in it. But, like, I don't want to see it everywhere. And, like, surely there are other ways of implementing a system that protects children from the internet without forcing adults, whenever they shitpost on Reddit, or they have negative opinion about current government policy. And the solution is quite simple. You can install the filter at the device level. If the desire to protect children is indeed so strong, like surely there would be a market for people wanting to buy phones made for kids that at the device level prevent the phone from accessing adult stuff or from accessing stuff that's too violent. That informs the parent with the browsing history and everything that the kid did. This is what boggles my brain, by the way. When I grew up, there was absolutely no safetyism. Like, when I grew up, my generation would simply leave the house, usually at around 12, 2 p.m., and we would stay gone up until 9, 10 p.m. That's when we would come back home. And we were out, you know, playing soccer, doing stuff that people at my age were doing. But we had no cell phones. Like, my mother knew where I was vaguely, right? Like, she knew, okay, so there's a football stadium behind the block. That's probably where I'll find them. And if she wanted to talk to me because there was an emergency, like, she would physically have to go over there and she would see me. Or she would get angry if I wasn't there. But that's how things were, right? Like, that was parenting back then. Nowadays, you have all these electronic devices. Like, if you want to surveil your kid, like, you can be worse than Big Brother on steroids. This idea, oh, Well, showing a credit card is not enough. It's not enough because a kid can have access to a card. Yeah, and his parents can have access to his bank account and bank history. They can know every single transaction. They can see where the money went. And so, like, this idea that now it's like a more dangerous time for the young generation than it used to be back in my days is ridiculous. We do not need this level of Chinese spyware shit to regulate society, especially when we saw what happens to people that were accused of hate speech for saying stuff that now it's perfectly normal to say. Nothing that Nigel Farage said back then would be considered controversial today. Nothing that a lot of even doctors that got banned during the pandemic for saying shit then would have been controversial to say today. And so why do we want to drive the internet conversation based on hysteria? Based on like what activist groups find it hysterical in the current day when we know they chilled the fuck out 1 or 2 years later? And why do you allow them to get their foot on the door? The people keep saying, well, yeah, but like degenerate art form normalizes degeneracy. Yeah, but promoting censorship doesn't normalize censorship? Think about it. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you on my live stream. Take care.